I got to ask you, though, too, Toronto, because, of course, I'm in Toronto. What was it like back then playing at the Toronto venues?
It was great because as you know, when you look back, when you're in the middle of something, when you're in the middle of your life and things are happening, you don't really have the benefit of looking from outside your own vantage point of what's going on and what it might look like historically. So we were just out trying to have a good time. We were part of a very special time in North America when young people were coming into their own, where there was a movement where there's a lot of drugs, and a lot of the drugs that were used were focused around marijuana, which you could get high and think that you could see God or be part of a movement that could make life better for everybody. There was a lot of optimism. People were really believing, perhaps somewhat naively, perhaps not, that our generation could lead to a more peaceful world, where there would be a lot less war and a lot of those kinds of things. And basically, people were very optimistic. We really were convinced that we could make a better world than our parents and their parents had made. And so the music, which was incredible, that came out of that classic rock period, came from us, but I think it more or less came from the whole social scene that was happening through us, if you want to put it that way. So, I mean, what does an artist try to do? I mean, you don't try to do anything. You try to, write some nice songs and hope that people will like it. But on a higher level, you're just really mirroring what's going on around you. And it was an incredible time, and we were able to be at a certain age at that time when we could make great music. And when I go back and listen to the incredible creativity and innovation in the late 60s and early 70s, which is a period that we're talking about when Lighthouse first got going. And if you go on websites like Wolfgang's Vault, where it turns out that all the artists that played at the Fillmore West in Los Angeles were surreptitiously recorded by the techies there. And you hear everybody from Santana through Lighthouse to just fantastic artists. And you compare what we were all doing. One thing that sticks out in my mind is that compared to the music that's been made in more recent decades, it was unbelievably creative and individual. And every artist and every band sounded really different. We were all experimenting. We were all just trying to find a way to tell through our music and our lyrics our personal stories, because that's basically what you do. Sometimes you do it literally, sometimes you do it not very literally, but that's all you do, and you do that in a way that is not contrived. It's just like that's what you do, and especially when you're really busy and you're just performing all the time and doing records all the time, you don't really have much time to plan what you're doing, and it just kind of comes out. And fortunately, we were just lucky to be around at the right time, at the right place, and we all reflected off each other. Nowadays, the number of venues that artists that are getting going can get experience in is incredibly small. You either have to, bands nowadays have to either pay the club a fee for the permission to get on stage and make some music, or else you just can't. Until you release your own records and sell a certain amount of them, you can't get any distribution, and you can't play venues that are medium sized. But in those days, every high school would have concerts and dances, and Lighthouse must have played at literally hundreds of colleges and universities in the United States that were always having concerts. And there were medium-sized clubs that could hold 50 to 100 to 150 people, and you didn't have to be in a position where you could draw 2,000 or 3,000 people to a concert in order to find an audience. So times have just changed, and it's in my view, of course, I was part of that generation, and it seems to me that it was better in some of those ways. But every generation has its own ups and downs and advantages and disadvantages. So today there are other things that happen. But certainly from a point of view of the music that is very popular today, it's really mass popularity that drives everything, and there's a lot of cookie cutter sounds and approaches to music compared to 50 years ago when it wasn't like that at all.
I just wanted to say that I think that also the industry and the people who were pulling the strings within the industry were themselves young and creating a place within the industry and changing the industry. So they were very receptive to new music. And when Lighthouse presented their music to MGM, they were signed that same day, and that would not happen nowadays.
Yeah, it couldn't happen. So I met this guy Skip Prokop in New York. I had a show running off Broadway. And we ended up on the same flight back to Toronto. We had a chat. He had been playing with his band, the Paupers. He was just leaving, and he had this idea for a big band with horns and strings. And he said, if you're interested, maybe we could do it together. And you could do the jazz players and the classical guys and so and so. And we came back to Toronto, and we went in the studio. And we recorded, I think, 5 tunes as a demo. We flew to New York, and the day we flew to New York, we took it up we called up the record company, and Skip had a contact there because he had played in the Paupers, and they had their record contract. And we took it, we had a 10 o'clock in the morning appointment, and the head of the signing group, the guy they called A&R man, artists and repertoire, listened to our demo as we brought it in at 10 o'clock in the morning and said, why don't you come back this afternoon? I'll play you for a few more people. And he did, and that afternoon they drafted a contract. We went out for a coffee and we signed a contract and we had a record deal. And nowadays it's just it's unbelievable when people hear that. But it was that kind of time. It was very different.
We'll fly to the north.